Hello and welcome to the Blood Reds Daily News. I'm joined by my fellow Liverpool.com writer, Dave Comerford. And today we're going to talk about the fixtures that were announced this morning. Liverpool are set to play two mid-season friendlies, I don't know how to say it, against AC Milan and Lyon in Dubai, in and around the World Cup. And it's going to be a Super Cup or a World Super Cup. That's how they're referring to it. And I think it's going to be an interesting sort of way to test out some of Liverpool's younger players and also all the players who are not going to the World Cup. What's your opinion, Dave?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, some people might think it's interesting that it's in Dubai, obviously, with all the ownership stuff. Klopp said recently at a press conference that was just to do with the proximity to Qatar and players being able to join up. I'm not sure on the actual date for these games yet, and whether it will allow any players who kind of go out early to join. They'd probably get a break anyway, but it's interesting in terms of the purpose of the games and not knowing really where they stand. It's interesting what you say there at the start, Ben, really, in terms of how the fixtures are viewed, how this whole period should be viewed, really. Is it a pre-season? Is it just a winter break? What is it? I think Klopp himself has called it a pre-season. And generally, if we're talking about pre-season friendlies, it means we are going to see a lot of young players involved. Obviously, in the summer, we saw, certainly in those early games, players will play about 30 minutes, use about 3 different 11s. There probably won't be enough players to do that this time. My hunch would be that we might see maybe less involvement from youngsters, or certainly the youngsters who don't really have the prospect of making it into the first 11 in the future, because I think that the objective will be more to maintain the match sharpness of the players like Andy Robertson and Mo Salah who aren't going to the World Cup. That's my instinct on it, but obviously within that there's the added opportunity to get some game time for the youngsters too. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they treat it. And I don't think anybody quite knows how to actually look at these games.
Yeah, I mean, when we're looking at the fixtures, I think the game against Lyon is on the 11th of December and Milan on the 16th of December. The World Cup final is on the 18th of December. So it will be towards the end of the tournament. And you'd think most of the Liverpool players, will have been eliminated by then. I certainly don't have high hopes for England at the tournament. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold and Jordan Henderson will probably be back by then. And potentially even Darwin Núñez. So, like you say, there might not be that many youngsters involved, but I do think this is a good opportunity for someone like Ben Doak to make an impression, someone like Stefan Bajcetic. I think those are the kind of players who will be involved, who are already on the fringes. And I think another one that I'm going to ask you about is Calvin Ramsey. Obviously, he missed out on having a pre-season over the summer. And I think this is an opportunity for him to almost have his own pre-season at Liverpool.
Yeah, that's a great point, really. Klopp, I think, has spoken about that, about how disrupted it's been and maybe how valuable the opportunity is going to be for him now. I think you probably rank him alongside Oxlade-Chamberlain, maybe, alongside Keita as well, as players who basically had their whole summer disrupted and now need to use this to really ramp up and get in better condition. But Ramsey is one of those where, how I spoke earlier about players who are kind of young players but have the sort of prospect of being involved in that first team squad. Ramsey definitely one of those, kind of seen as eventually someone will be able to play a sort of Simicast role on the right side of the defence. And we've seen promising signs from him up to this point. So excited to see more of him in action. Yeah, I think, even if Trent does go out early, the odds are Liverpool give him a little bit of time off, maybe depending on how much he actually played for England. But there should definitely be a chance for Ramsey to play some minutes. I think he'll be playing for Scotland as well, hopefully, before then. So hopefully the result of that is by the end of this World Cup break that Ramsey is in a lot better shape, and he's already looking in decent nick. And in what we've seen of him, and if he can really kick on in the second half of the season, then I think a lot of Liverpool fans and maybe wider fans will realise just how good sort of a bargain Liverpool had last summer and picking him up for the money that they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses. But like you mentioned, he will be going on an international break before that. And I think that's what people sort of skip over, is that the vast majority of the Liverpool team, even though there's only 7 going to the World Cup, will still be going on international breaks, playing friendlies before these games. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of a break Liverpool actually do get. It doesn't feel like they're going to get that much of a break. And from Klopp's words as well, that when he said, we put ourselves in Dubai because it's easier to get from Qatar to Dubai, it seems to suggest he's not looking to give that much of a break for the players involved in the tournament either.
Yeah, definitely. Now that you mention it, I suppose that is a fair way of looking at it. And yeah, it's hard to see how exactly it'll pan out. I mean, the internationals is a good point, and I'll be honest, it's something that I kind of didn't really piece together myself, and only sort of realised in the past few days that there are going to be a lot of players who, you know, it's not going to be almost the full break, and Liverpool aren't going to be in sort of total control of their regime in the next few weeks. And obviously, you just got to hope that there aren't the kind of injuries there that you might see in a standard international break, where usually you get 1 or 2 knocks arising from that. So, yeah, obviously, most of them playing friendly, so you hope it's kind of low intensity, but certain teams, I imagine, will be playing World Cup sides in kind of warm-up matches, which might be a little bit more intense. So just, yeah, fingers crossed on those. And it's a shame, but if you're looking at it on maybe the more positive side, then say was it the 11th of December, that game against Lyon? You know, if they weren't playing for the best part of a month, then it might be a bit more detrimental to them. So at least a lot of the players, I think there's sort of nearly or around 10 of them who got called up over and apart from the World Cup. You know, hopefully for those players, it will be beneficial in a certain way too.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think lastly, with Liverpool taking on Lyon and AC Milan, obviously 2 exciting sides in Europe at the moment, do you think there's a potential of Liverpool maybe taking a look at someone in the AC Milan side, or potentially Lyon?
Well, you can't rule that out. What I thought was really interesting was in the summer, obviously, when we played Leipzig and Salzburg, that was notable because of the amount of, not only the amount of business that we've done with those teams, but more so just the admiration that we clearly have and that we've read about that Liverpool sort of scouting departments have for that Red Bull model. So it seemed clear that we were trying to foster good relations with those teams by organising the friendlies, and maybe there's an element of that here too. Part of me would think that, you know, with it being in Dubai, with it being kind of 2 of Europe's biggest clubs really outside England, then it maybe is more commercially incentivized, this one. And yeah, I suppose we're going to have to see who's kind of available for Milan, how they approach it in terms of what you said about the split with young players and experience. You know, just looking here in terms of some of the players who won't be playing for Milan. Rafael Leao obviously is probably their kind of biggest star. He won't be playing. Giroud, Hernandez, both playing for France. Dest for the USA. De Ketelaere for Belgium. A few players like that. So a few of their kind of exciting players maybe won't be there, but I'm sure there'll be a few left over. And I think Lyon are struggling a bit this season. They've only got a couple of players going to the tournament, so a lot of their players will be there too. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be somebody who catches Klopp's eye really. Much as I think that there'll be sort of scouts and reports coming back from Liverpool players themselves who are actually at the World Cup, sort of maybe urging the clubs to have a look at 1 or 2 players who caused them problems, maybe in the fashion of Minamino, but on the international stage this time.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I think certainly we all thought that this sort of layoff of Liverpool not being in action is going to be a lot longer than it actually turned out to be. It's only a few weeks away now. Liverpool's first game against Lyon, and that's definitely exciting. Thanks, David, for joining me, and thanks everyone for tuning in. As always, there will be plenty of reaction on Blood Red going out today, and written content as well on liverpool.com, so do make sure to check that as well.